The transport ship descended through the purple clouds of Vextar, and Captain Ji-won Kim watched the alien world grow larger in the viewport. She had seen many strange things in her 38 years, but this was different. This was humanity's first real chance to prove they belonged among the stars. Nervous? Lieutenant Minho Park asked from the seat beside her. He was young, maybe 26, with eager eyes that reminded Ji-won of her younger self. Always, she admitted, but that's what keeps us sharp. The ship landed with a gentle thump on the military base. Through the window, Ji-won could see rows of alien soldiers moving in perfect formation. They were tall, covered in scales that shimmered green and bronze in the sunlight. The Vextar, one of the most powerful military forces in the Galactic Coalition. Commander Velthar waited at the landing pad. He was even larger up close, nearly 8 feet tall with eyes that looked like molten gold. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Captain Kim, welcome to Vextar." He did not sound welcoming. The Coalition suggested this meeting. We shall see if it was worth our time. Ji-won had expected this. Humanity had only joined the Coalition 3 months ago. To most aliens, humans were weak newcomers. No claws, no scales, no telepathy, just soft skin and simple minds. "Thank you for hosting us, Commander," Ji-won said calmly. "We hope to build a strong partnership." Velthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Partnership requires equals, Captain, but come. I will show you our base." The tour began in the command center, where holographic displays showed star systems and fleet positions. Then they visited the training grounds where Vextar soldiers practiced combat with weapons that hummed with energy. Minho watched everything with wide eyes, but Ji-won kept her face neutral. She had learned long ago not to show weakness. Behind them walked Specialist Hyejin Choi, the team's xenobiologist. She was recording everything with her datapad, occasionally asking questions that Velthar answered with barely hidden impatience. They walked for nearly an hour through the massive base. Finally, they reached a section surrounded by high walls. Strange sounds came from beyond the barriers. Roars, screams, the clash of metal. "And this," Velthar said with obvious pride, "is where we train the Rakthar." "What are Rakthar?" Minho asked. "Our war beasts. The finest weapons in the Coalition arsenal." Velthar led them through a reinforced gate. "They have served us for generations." The holding area was enormous. Ji-won saw cages built from metal that gleamed with energy fields. Inside each cage moved shapes that made her breath catch. The Rakthar were massive creatures, easily twice the size of an earth elephant. They had 6 legs, each ending in claws as long as swords. Their bodies were covered in natural armor plates that overlapped like scales. But it was their eyes that caught Ji-won's attention. Intelligent eyes. Aware eyes. Frightened eyes. "Magnificent, are they not?" Velthar said. "We have bred them for warfare for over 3,000 years. No other species can control them. They bond only with Vextar handlers." Ji-won watched as alien soldiers moved around the cages with long poles that crackled with electricity. The Rakthar flinched away from the poles. One of the beasts, smaller than the others, pressed itself against the back of its cage. "How do you train them?" Hyejin asked, her voice careful. "Through discipline and dominance. They must learn we are the masters. Any sign of defiance is corrected immediately." Velthar gestured to the poles. "Pain teaches quickly." Ji-won felt her jaw tighten, but she said nothing. She had grown up on her family's wildlife preserve in the mountains of Korea. She had worked with bears, tigers, even wolves that everyone said were too dangerous to save. She knew what real training looked like. This was not training. This was torture. "Would you like to see a demonstration?" Velthar asked. He did not wait for an answer. He barked orders in his own language. Several handlers moved to one of the larger cages. Inside, a massive Rakthar raised its head. Its armor was darker than the others, almost black. Scars crossed its face. As the cage door opened, the handlers used their electric poles to force it into a large arena. The beast moved slowly, its head low. Ji-won could see the tension in every muscle. This was not a proud predator. This was a creature that had learned to expect pain. "Watch," Velthar said. "This one is particularly aggressive. We must remind it who is in control." A handler stepped forward with a pole. He jabbed it toward the Rakthar. The creature roared and moved back. The handler jabbed again, and again. The Rakthar's eyes grew wider. Its breathing quickened. Ji-won knew that look. She had seen it in injured animals before. That was not aggression. That was fear turning into panic. "Commander," she said quietly, "perhaps that's enough." The pole struck the Rakthar's scarred face. Something broke inside the creature. It roared, a sound that shook the ground. The handler stumbled backward. The Rakthar charged. Chaos erupted. The handler ran. Other soldiers raised their weapons. But the Rakthar was fast. Faster than something that large should be. It smashed through a section of fencing. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. "Contain it!" Velthar roared. But the soldiers were frozen. The Rakthar was free in the open, and heading straight toward a group of young Vextar recruits who had been watching from a safe area. They were now directly in its path. Everyone stopped moving. G1 saw it happen in slow motion. The recruits were too scared to run. The soldiers were too far away. The Rakthar lowered its head, preparing to charge, and then G1 was moving. She walked out from behind the barrier, not running, walking, calm and steady. Her hands were empty at her sides. "Captain," Minho shouted. "What are you doing?" Velthar grabbed for her but missed. "Human, you will be killed." G1 did not answer. She did not look back. She kept her eyes on the Rakthar. The beast saw her. It paused, confused. Here was a small creature walking toward it without weapons, without fear scent pouring off it like the others. G1 took another step. And another. She could hear Minho yelling, could hear Velthar ordering his soldiers to fire, but Heejin's voice cut through the noise. "No, everyone stop. Let her work." G1 was 20 feet from the beast now. Then 15, 10. She could see the scars on its face clearly, could see the old burns from electric poles on its legs, could see the intelligence in its eyes mixed with terror and confusion. She knew this look. She had seen it in a wolf once years ago, a wolf that everyone wanted to put down because it was too dangerous, until her grandmother had walked into its cage and sat down. Just sat down. And waited. G1 stopped walking. She was close enough now that the Rakthar could kill her with one swipe of its massive claws, close enough to smell its breath, close enough to see her reflection in its eyes. She took a slow breath, let it out, took another. She did not raise her hands, did not make herself bigger or try to appear threatening. She made herself smaller instead, lowered her shoulders, tilted her head slightly away. The Rakthar watched her. Its massive chest heaved with panicked breaths, but it did not attack. Behind her, every alien on the base stood frozen in disbelief. The human walked toward the enraged war beast unarmed, and somehow impossibly she was still alive. The Rakthar stared at G1. She stared back but not directly into its eyes. That would be a challenge. Instead, she focused on the space just beside its massive head. She kept breathing slowly, keeping her body relaxed even though her heart was racing. The beast's nostrils flared. It was smelling her, trying to understand what she was, why she was not afraid like the others, why she was not attacking or running. G1 thought about her grandmother. She had been 8 years old when she first saw the wolf. It had been caught in a trap and brought to their preserve. Everyone said it was too wild, too dangerous. But her grandmother had looked into its eyes and seen only fear and pain. All creatures want the same things. Her grandmother had told her, safety, peace, to be understood. G1 had not understood then, but she had watched as her grandmother spent days just sitting near the wolf's enclosure. Not talking, not moving, just being there, patient, non-threatening. And slowly, the wolf had begun to trust, now facing a creature from another world. G1 used those same lessons. Behind her, she could hear whispered voices. Minho was arguing with someone, probably trying to save her, but Heejin's voice cut through, sharp and commanding. Nobody move. Nobody make a sound. She knows what she's doing, did she? G1 was not sure. The Rakthar was alien. Everything about it was different from Earth creatures. But fear was universal. Pain was universal. And so, she hoped, was the need for kindness. The beast took a step closer. Its claws scraped against the metal ground. It lowered its head, bringing its face level with G1's. She could see every detail now. The scars that crisscrossed its armored skin, the burns around its neck where a collar had been, the way its eyes tracked her every breath. G1 began to hum. It was an old song her grandmother used to sing. A simple melody without words. Just sound. Just music. The kind of sound that could not hurt anyone. The Rakthar's ears twitched. Did it have ears? G1 saw small openings in the sides of its head. They moved, focusing on her voice. The beast tilted its head, almost like a dog trying to understand a new sound. She kept humming. Kept breathing. Her legs were getting tired from standing so still, but she did not move. Movement could be seen as aggression or fear. Right now, she needed to be a stone, peaceful, unchanging, safe. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. Time felt strange. The whole base was silent now. Even the machines seemed to have stopped their noise. There was only G1's humming and the heavy breathing of the Rakthar. Then something changed in the beast's eyes. The panic faded. The tension in its muscles loosened. It sat back on its haunches, a position that looked almost relaxed. Almost normal, G1 stopped humming. She waited a moment, then began to sing softly, words in Korean that the Rakthar could not understand, but it did not matter. The meaning was in her tone, gentle, calm, safe. "No one will hurt you," she sang. "You are safe now. I see you. I understand." The Rakthar made a sound, not a roar, something softer. It rumbled in its chest and the sound echoed across the silent base. Then it did something that made every alien watching gasp. It bowed its head, not in submission, not in defeat, in acknowledgement. In trust, Jiwan slowly raised her hand. She moved as if underwater, each motion taking several seconds. The Rakthar watched but did not pull away. Her fingers touched its armored head. The surface was warm and rough, like stone that had been sitting in the sun. The beast closed its eyes. Jiwan felt tears on her face. She had not realized she was crying. This creature had been hurt so much, used as a weapon, treated as a thing instead of a being, and yet it still had the capacity to trust. "To hope you are beautiful," she whispered, "and you are not alone anymore." Behind her, she heard footsteps. The handlers were coming with their tranquilizer weapons. She knew they would take the Rakthar back to its cage, back to the pain, and there was nothing she could do to stop them. But maybe she had given it one moment of peace. One moment of being seen as more than a weapon. "Stand aside, human," Velthar's voice commanded. But it was softer now. Less certain, Jiwan stepped back slowly. The Rakthar opened its eyes and watched her go. She kept her gaze on it until the handlers surrounded it with their weapons ready, but they did not need them. The beast walked calmly back toward the holding area. It did not fight, did not roar. When it reached its cage, it turned and looked at Jiwan one last time. Then it entered and lay down peacefully. The handlers stared at each other in confusion. This had never happened before. Jiwan walked back to where Minho and Hyejin waited. Her legs were shaking now that the moment had passed. Minho grabbed her arm to steady her. "Are you insane?" he asked, but his voice was filled with awe rather than anger. "Probably," Jiwan admitted. Hyejin was recording everything on her data pad, her fingers flying over the screen. That was incredible. "Do you know what you just did? No one has ever calmed a Rakthar without technology. Not even the Vextar." Commander Velthar approached them. His golden eyes studied Jiwan with an expression she could not read. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he spoke and his voice had changed. "The arrogance was gone. How did you do that?" Jiwan thought about her answer carefully. "I grew up around dangerous animals, Commander. My family ran a preserve for creatures that others wanted to kill. I learned that most aggression comes from fear. That creature was not attacking. It was terrified." "Terrified?" Velthar sounded offended. "The Rakthar are bred for battle. They know no fear." "With respect, Commander, that is not true." I saw fear in its eyes. Fear and pain and confusion. It did not want to fight. It wanted to escape the pain. Velthar was quiet. Around them, other Vextar soldiers were whispering to each other. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. All looked at G1 differently than before. "Perhaps," Velthar said slowly, "we have been wrong about some things." That evening, back in the quarters assigned to the human delegation, G1 sat by the window and looked out at the alien stars. Minho and Hyejin were discussing what had happened, their voices excited and full of theories. But G1 was thinking about the Rakthar, about all the creatures in those cages, about how the coalition treated them as weapons instead of beings. She thought about her grandmother's words, "All creatures want the same things." Her communication device beeped. A message from Earth, from the Coalition Council themselves. Word had already spread about what happened. The aliens were talking. Some were impressed. Others were angry. But everyone had an opinion about the human who had walked toward death unarmed and somehow survived. The message was simple. "Report to Coalition headquarters immediately. Your presence is requested." Jiwan closed her eyes. She had a feeling her life was about to change. The question was whether that change would be for better or worse. Outside, in the holding area, the dark-armored Rakthar lay in its cage. For the first time in years, it was not afraid. It remembered the small creature that had sung to it, that had touched it without causing pain, that had seen it as more than a weapon. In the vast loneliness of its cage, the Rakthar made that rumbling sound again. If anyone had been listening, if anyone had cared to understand, they might have recognized it for what it was: hope. 3 weeks had passed since the incident on Vextar. Jiwan had expected the Coalition to forget about it. Instead, her communication device had not stopped beeping. Messages from scientists, from military commanders, from species she had never heard of, all wanting to know the same thing. How did a human calm a Rakthar? Now she stood in the grand chamber of the Coalition High Command, and she understood why they had summoned her. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate dozens of different alien species. Some sat in chairs. Others floated in tanks of liquid. A few hung from the ceiling. At the center, projected in holographic light, was an image of a planet. It looked red and angry, covered in storms. Captain Kim, said Counselor Threshkan. He was insectoid, with multiple eyes that reflected light like jewels. Thank you for coming so quickly. Of course, Counselor. Jiwan kept her voice steady despite her nerves. You have caused quite a stir in the Coalition, another counselor said. She was made of crystalline structures that chimed when she moved. Your actions on Vextar have been discussed at every level. I only did what seemed right, Jiwan said. Right or not, it was unprecedented. Threshkan gestured to the hologram. Which brings us to why you are here. Do you know what this planet is? No, Counselor. This is Kethrol, a prison world. But also something else. It houses the largest Rakthar breeding facility in the Coalition. Or it did. 3 days ago, there was a catastrophic system failure. The automated containment protocols malfunctioned. The hologram changed. Now it showed images from inside the facility. Jiwan felt her stomach turn. Cages torn apart, blood on the walls, bodies of handlers, and everywhere the shapes of Rakthar moving in the shadows. How many? She asked quietly. 73 Rakthar, all fully grown, all trained for combat, all now completely feral and uncontrolled. The crystalline counselor's voice chimed sadly. They killed 32 handlers before the facility was evacuated. The decision has been made, Threshkan continued. We will exterminate them. All of them. It is the only safe option. No. The word came out before Jiwan could stop it. The chamber fell silent. All the alien eyes turned to her. Excuse me? Threshkan's voice was dangerous now. Jiwan took a breath. Counselor, with respect, I do not think that is necessary. These creatures are not naturally violent. Something made them this way. The malfunction you mentioned, what did it do? A different counselor, one that looked like living water in a containment field, spoke up. The automated training systems activated simultaneously. Sonic weapons, electric restraints, pain inducers, all at maximum levels. For approximately 14 hours of torture. Jiwan felt sick. Then they are not feral, she said. They are traumatized. There is a difference. And you believe you can fix traumatized war beasts? Threshkan asked. His tone made it clear he thought she was foolish. I would like to try. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some counselors seemed interested. Others were clearly angry. Threshkan raised a limb for silence. Even if we considered this absurd proposal, why should we trust a human? Your species has been part of the Coalition for mere months. You have no experience with our methods or our creatures. That is exactly why you should trust me, Jiwan said. Because I have no investment in your methods. I can see the situation clearly. Those creatures were tortured into violence. With proper care, they can be calmed. And if you fail, if they kill you and your team, if they escape and harm others, then you can proceed with your original plan. But give me a chance to try first. More discussion, more arguments. Finally, the water counselor spoke. I support this proposal. We have nothing to lose by allowing the human to try, and perhaps much to gain if she succeeds. A vote was called. It was close. But in the end, Jiwan was given permission. 2 weeks. That was all. 2 weeks to rehabilitate 73 traumatized war beasts, or they would all be destroyed. When she left the chamber, she found Minho and Hyejin waiting outside. Well? Minho asked. We are going to Kethrol. Hyejin's eyes widened. The breeding facility? I heard what happened there. Jiwon, are you sure about this? No, but we have to try. We? Minho said. You mean we are coming with you? I need a team. You do not have to. Of course we are coming, Hijin interrupted. You think I would miss this? We need data, research, and someone has to document what you do so others can learn. And someone needs to watch your back, Minho added. Even if you can talk to war beasts, Jiwon smiled. Thank you, both of you. But we will need more help. The coalition is assigning us 2 more humans, a psychologist and a medic. She pulled up their profiles on her datapad. Daiho Lee and Sunmi Han Daeho was 43, with kind eyes and a gentle smile in his photo. His specialty was trauma responses in predatory animals. He had worked in war zones on Earth, helping to rehabilitate dogs that had been used in fighting rings. Sunmi was 35, with sharp features and a no-nonsense expression. She was a combat medic who had served in dangerous regions. Her file noted that she had once treated an injured tiger while it was still conscious. The tiger had not attacked her. They sound perfect, Hyejin said, reading over Jiwon's shoulder. I hope so. We are going to need all the help we can get. The journey to Kethrol took 2 days. During that time, Jiwon studied everything she could about Rakthar biology and behavior. Most of it made her angry. The coalition's training methods were brutal. Break their spirits. Teach them that disobedience means pain. Make them dependent on their handlers for food and safety. It was not training. It was abuse. Systematic, calculated abuse designed to create weapons. When they finally arrived at Kethrol, Jiwon met Daiho and Sunmi at the landing pad. Daeho was exactly as his photo suggested, calm and kind. Sunmi was more intense, studying Jiwon with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. So you are the one who walked toward a war beast unarmed, Sunmi said. It was not a question. Yes. Good. I was worried they would send me someone foolish. But there is a difference between foolish and brave. I think you are brave, Daeho smiled. I look forward to working with you, Captain. What you did on Vextar was remarkable. We will see if I can do it 73 more times, Jiwon said. They took a transport to the facility. As they approached, Jiwon could see the damage even from the air. Sections of the building had been torn apart. Walls had holes in them, and everywhere there was silence. No roars, no sounds of life. Inside was worse. The facility was a nightmare. Cages destroyed. Equipment scattered. Dried blood on the floors and walls. And the smell. Death and fear mixed together. By all the stars, Minho whispered. Daeho was examining the walls. Look at these marks. Claw marks. They were trying to escape, trying to get away from the pain. Sunmi knelt beside a broken machine. This was a sonic weapon. It would have been unbearably painful for creatures with their hearing sensitivity. 14 hours of this would drive any being mad. Jiwon walked through the destroyed facility, through the ruined cages, through the evidence of so much suffering, and she made a promise. To herself. To the Rakthar. To any power that might be listening. We will help them, she said. All of them. We will show them that not everyone wants to hurt them. From somewhere deeper in the facility came a sound. A roar, not of aggression. Of pain, of loneliness. Of creatures who had given up hope. The team looked at each other. They all knew this would be dangerous. They all knew they might not survive. But they also knew it was right. Let us get to work, Jiwon said. The first 3 days were spent just surveying the damage. Jiwon and her team moved carefully through the facility, documenting everything. Hyejin recorded the destruction. Daeho studied the training equipment. Sunmi examined the medical records. Minho kept watch, his weapon ready but never raised. What they found made Jiwon's anger grow with each passing hour. The training rooms were torture chambers. Electric floors that could be activated remotely, sonic weapons mounted on the walls, restraint systems that would tighten until the Rakthar could barely breathe. All controlled by automated systems that decided when a creature needed to be corrected. Look at this, Daeho called. He was standing in front of a computer console that had somehow survived. This is the training schedule. They were shocked every 4 hours. Fed only when they performed correctly, kept in darkness most of the time. This is not training, Sunmi said, her voice tight with anger. This is systematic torture. The coalition did this? Minho asked. I thought they were supposed to be advanced. Advanced technology, Jiwon said quietly. Not advanced morality. Hyejin was scanning the biological data. According to this, Rakthar are highly social creatures. They form complex family bonds. They communicate through a combination of sounds and body language. They have excellent memory and can recognize individuals years later. She looked up, her face pale. The Coalition has been treating intelligent social beings as if they were simple machines. That night, they made camp in one of the few undamaged sections of the facility. They could hear the Rakthar moving in the darkness, roars, screams, the sounds of creatures in pain. How do we even begin? Minho asked. There are 73 of them. They are terrified and violent. We have 2 weeks. We begin with the facility itself, Jiwan said. We remove everything that caused pain, every sonic weapon, every electric floor, every restraint system. We make this place safe. That will take days, Sunmi pointed out, then we work fast. They did. For 4 days straight, the team worked to disable or destroy every piece of equipment designed to hurt the Rakthar. It was exhausting work. Several times they had close encounters with the beasts. Once a Rakthar charged at Minho, and only Jiwan's calm voice stopped it from attacking. But slowly the facility changed. The torture devices were gone. The harsh lights were replaced with softer ones. The empty cages were opened, allowing the Rakthar to move freely. Now comes the hard part, Deho said. They started with food. Not the nutrition paste the Coalition had used, but real meat from various animals. They left it in locations around the facility and then retreated. Hidden cameras showed the Rakthar approaching cautiously, expecting a trap. When none came, they ate. Next came enrichment. Daiho designed activities based on what Rakthar would do in nature. Logs to scratch against, pools of water to cool in, open spaces to move. The team installed these things and waited. Slowly, very slowly, the Rakthar began to relax, but there was one that remained apart from the others. The scouts reported seeing it lurking in the darkest sections of the facility. It was larger than the rest, with scars covering its entire body. It never ate with the others, never interacted, just watched from the shadows. That one worries me, Minho said. That one needs help the most, Jiwan replied. She began spending hours near where the scarred Rakthar hid. She did not approach it. She just sat. Sometimes she read, sometimes she sang, sometimes she just breathed. The camera showed the creature watching her, always watching. On the 8th day, Jiwan decided to name it. Taiyang, she said aloud, knowing the Rakthar could hear. It means sun in my language, because even in darkness the sun still exists. The creature made no sound, but its eyes followed her as she left. The breakthrough came on the 10th day. Sunmi was treating an injured Rakthar, removing painful implants that the Coalition had embedded in its neck. The creature was sedated but not unconscious. The procedure was delicate and taking longer than expected. Suddenly another Rakthar burst from the shadows. Taiyang, the scarred one. It charged toward Sunmi with claws extended. Minho raised his weapon. Hyejin screamed a warning. Daiho moved to pull Sunmi away, but Taiyang did not attack Sunmi. It positioned itself between her and a section of ceiling that was cracking. A support beam, damaged during the malfunction, was finally giving way. Taiyang stood firm as the metal crashed down on its armored back. The beam would have killed Sunmi. Instead, Taiyang took the impact. The creature roared in pain but did not move. Not until Sunmi was safely away. Then it limped back into the shadows. The team stood in shocked silence. It protected her, Minho whispered. A feral war beast protected one of us. Jiwan was already moving. She followed Taeyang into the dark sections of the facility. The others called after her, but she did not stop. She found the creature lying in a corner, breathing heavily. Blood seeped from between its armor plates where the beam had struck. Taeyang, Jiwan said softly. Let me help you. The Rakthar's eyes opened. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then, impossibly, Taeyang lowered its head. Jiwan signaled for Sunmi. The medic came quickly, bringing her equipment. Together they treated Taeyang's wounds. The creature remained still the entire time, trusting. As Sunmi worked, Jiwan sang the same song her grandmother had taught her, the one she had used on Vextar, and Taeyang, the scarred survivor who had known nothing but pain, closed its eyes and made that rumbling sound. The one that meant hope. Word spread through the facility. The other Rakthar had seen what happened. They had seen one of their own protect a human, had seen the humans help in return. The atmosphere changed. The fear began to lift. By day 12, they had made incredible progress. Most of the Rakthar were calm now. They accepted food from the team. Some even approached them cautiously. Tiho was working with them on basic trust exercises. Hijin was documenting their social structures. Sunmi had removed painful implants from over 40 of them, and Taeyang had become Jiwan's shadow. Wherever she went, the scarred Rakthar followed at a distance, protecting her. The way she had protected it, the coalition observers were stunned. Their reports to the council grew more amazed with each passing day. This was not supposed to be possible. Feral war beasts could not be rehabilitated, and yet, here it was happening. But not everyone was happy about the success. On day 13, Counselor Threshkan arrived at the facility. He walked through the transformed space, his insectoid face unreadable. He watched the Rakthar moving peacefully, watched them interact with the human team without violence. "This is remarkable," he said, but his tone suggested he did not think it was remarkable in a good way. "You have exceeded expectations, Captain Kim." "Thank you, Counselor. However, I must inform you that the Council has decided to shut down this project early." Jiwan felt her heart sink. "What, why?" "We have proven it works. You have proven that humans have an unusual talent. Nothing more. The Council feels this threatens the established order. If the Rakthar do not need to be controlled through force, it calls into question many of our other practices. So you would rather kill them than admit you were wrong?" Threshkan's eyes glittered. "The vote has already been taken. You have until tomorrow to evacuate, then the facility will be sterilized." After he left, the team gathered in their camp. The mood was dark. "There has to be something we can do," Hyejin said. "We can fight," Minho suggested. "Refuse to leave." "That will not help the Rakthar," Daeho pointed out. "They will just wait for us to leave and then proceed." Jiwan sat quietly, thinking. Then she smiled. "We have one card left to play." "What card?" Sunmi asked. "We let the Council see exactly what they would be destroying." Jiwan sent a message to the Coalition Council that night. It was simple and direct. "Before you make your final decision, I request one demonstration. Give me 1 hour to show you what we have accomplished. If you are not convinced, I will leave without protest." The response came within minutes. They would send representatives the next morning. The team spent the night preparing. They transformed the main arena into a showcase space. No weapons, no barriers. Just open ground and natural light filtering through the damaged ceiling. "Are you sure about this?" Minho asked for the 10th time. "If even one Rakthar acts aggressively, they will use it as proof that you failed." "They will not," Jiwan said. She sounded more confident than she felt. When morning came, the coalition representatives arrived. Counselor Threshkan led them, along with 4 other high-ranking officials. Commander Velthar was there too. He nodded to Jiwan, and she thought she saw respect in his golden eyes. They gathered in a viewing area overlooking the arena. Dozens of remote cameras floated in the air, broadcasting to the entire Coalition Council. Whatever happened here would be seen by thousands of species across the galaxy. "We are ready, Captain Kim," Threshkan said. "Show us your miracle." Jiwan walked into the arena, alone, unarmed. She had asked her team to stay behind. This had to be her. Just her and the Rakthar. The arena was empty at first. Then from various entrances around the space, the Rakthar began to emerge. One at a time, then in small groups. They moved slowly, cautiously. These creatures that had been bred for violence, trained through torture and driven mad by pain. 73 Rakthar filled the arena. Their combined size was terrifying. Any one of them could kill Jiwan in seconds. Together, they could destroy her before anyone could react. The coalition observers leaned forward. Weapons were ready, though they were supposed to only observe. Even Velthar had his hand on his sidearm. Jiwan stood in the center of the arena and began to sing. It was the song her grandmother had taught her. The one about mountains and rivers and the wind through trees. A song about home, about peace, about belonging. The Rakthar stopped moving. Their heads turned toward her, and slowly, impossibly, they sat. All of them. 73 war beasts sitting peacefully while a single human sang to them. Jiwan walked among them. She touched heads and scratched behind ears and ran her hands over scarred armor plates, and the Rakthar leaned into her touch. They made rumbling sounds of contentment. Some closed their eyes. From the shadows, Taeyang emerged. The scarred one. The most damaged. The one everyone had feared most. It walked to Jiwon and pressed its massive head against her shoulder. Protective, gentle, trusting. In the viewing area, there was absolute silence. Even Threshkan seemed unable to speak. Jiwon stopped singing. She looked up at the cameras, knowing the entire council was watching. "This is what you wanted to destroy," she said. Her voice was calm but carried across the arena. "These creatures that you created as weapons, that you tortured into obedience, that you treated as things rather than beings." She gestured to the Rakthar around her. "But they are not weapons. They are intelligent, emotional, social creatures who deserve respect and dignity. Everything you were told about them was wrong. They are not naturally violent. They were made that way, by you." Taeyang rumbled softly, and several other Rakthar echoed the sound. It was almost musical. "My species is not the strongest in the galaxy," Jiwon continued. "We do not have scales or claws or telepathy. We are soft and weak by most standards. But we learned something on our world. Earth is dangerous. It has predators and poisons and disasters. But we survived. Not by being the strongest. Not by dominating everything else. We survived by learning to cooperate. To understand. To build bridges between species." She placed her hand on Taeyang's head. "We domesticated wolves and made them our partners. We befriended horses and they carried us across continents. We swam with dolphins and they saved our lives. We learned that the greatest strength is not the power to destroy, it is the ability to connect." The arena was silent except for the gentle breathing of the Rakthar. "I propose something new," Jiwon said. "End the breeding programs. End the torture you call training. Give these creatures the respect they deserve. And let humanity help. Let us be the bridge between the coalition and the species you do not understand. The ones you fear. The ones you call dangerous." She looked directly at Threshkan. "We can help you see them not as threats or tools, but as partners. As allies. As beings worthy of dignity." For a long moment no one spoke. Then Commander Velthar stepped forward. "I vote to accept Captain Kim's proposal," he said. His voice was firm. "What I have seen here has shown me that we have been wrong. Very wrong. The Rakthar deserve better, and perhaps humanity can teach us how to provide it." The other representatives began to speak. Some agreed. Some argued. But Jiwon could see the tide turning. What they had witnessed was undeniable. Finally, Threshkan spoke. "Very well. The matter will be put to a vote before the full council. But Captain Kim, if this passes, you understand what it means? You would be responsible for implementing this across the entire coalition. Every misunderstood species. Every creature we have labeled as dangerous. That is a massive undertaking. I understand, Counselor, and I accept." 3 days later, the vote came through. It was close, but it passed. The coalition formally established the position of Harmony Keeper, with humans at its core. Their role would be to mediate between the coalition and species deemed too dangerous or uncontrollable. To find peaceful solutions where others saw only the need for force. Jiwon was promoted to Ambassador of Interspecies Relations. Her first official act was to establish a sanctuary on Kethrol for the Rakthar. They would never be used as war beasts again. The team stayed on Kethrol to continue their work. Hyejin documented everything, creating a comprehensive guide to Rakthar behavior and rehabilitation. Daeho trained other specialists in trauma recovery for various species. Sunmi established a medical facility designed specifically for treating creatures that others feared to approach. Minho surprised everyone by adopting a young Rakthar. She was small, barely half the size of the adults, with armor that shimmered like starlight. He named her Byol, which meant star in Korean. "If we are going to be harmony keepers," he explained as Byol curled up next to him, "we should probably start living in harmony ourselves." 6 months after the demonstration, Jiwon received a message from the coalition. 17 new species had been discovered on the edge of known space. All of them were classified as too dangerous for standard contact protocols. All of them were scheduled for isolation or, in extreme cases, elimination. The council wanted humanity's help. Jiwon stood on the observation deck of the Kethrol facility. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of the Rakthar moving through their new home. Peaceful sounds. Happy sounds. Taeyang was somewhere nearby, always watching over her. She pulled up the files on the 17 species. Some looked like living crystals. Others were massive serpents that swam through clouds. One appeared to be made entirely of electricity. All were classified as threats. She smiled. "Looks like we have work to do," she said to Taeyang. The great beast rumbled in agreement. In the distance, ships were already being prepared. Teams of humans and cooperative aliens were gathering supplies. The word had spread throughout the coalition. Humanity was offering something new. Not weapons, not threats, not domination, understanding, partnership, hope. On Earth, children learned new stories. Stories about Captain Ji-won Kim, who walked toward a war beast unarmed and showed the galaxy that true strength came from compassion. Stories about how humanity, the small and weak species, became the bridge builders of the stars. And across the coalition, in thousands of different languages and forms of communication, beings began to ask a question they had never considered before. If humans can befriend creatures we thought were monsters, what else might be possible? The answer, Ji-won knew, would take generations to discover. But they had taken the first step. They had shown that violence and dominance were not the only paths forward, that even the most damaged beings could heal with patience and kindness, that the greatest adventures did not come from conquering others, but from understanding them. She looked up at the alien stars, the same stars that had seemed so distant when humanity first left Earth. Now they felt closer, like home, because home was not a place. It was a connection, and humanity, for all their weaknesses, had always excelled at making connections. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was just beginning to understand their place in it, not as conquerors, not as servants, but as friends.